They have a problem with counting.
That's an interesting count.
Yeah, I know. Count us in one.
Thumbs up.
Now.
So, hello and welcome to another episode of Grange TV. We have with us Mr. Eli Hedges over there doing his count. He did a count. I said, count us in, and he did a one count.
Really following the footsteps of Dave.
Yeah, so his mentor and father figure, David Roberts, he did the count. Said, count us in, and he goes... So, and we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Isaac Butterfield, Australian comedian, podcaster, YouTuber. And we have with us Robert Whittaker, the runner-up of the Mortal Kombat Challenge, big loser in the VR boxing challenge, the biracial angel, Australia and New Zealand's own, Mr. Robert Whittaker.
Hey, the last Mortal Kombat experience was a win for me. I learned how to block.
But you didn't use it, man. You didn't use it.
Because I learned at the end.
It was a fucking savage beat.
It was a little late then.
Are you a good Mortal Kombat player?
Learn from your mistakes, mate. I'm one of those people that just goes full psycho on the buttons and just sometimes I come up trumps, other times fail miserably. But you learn from your mistakes. You learn to block. You learn how to throw a punch. Who gives a shit?
Some people don't learn to block though.
Hey, I did last week. Just you wait.
All right, we'll see. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? So you're a podcaster, you are a comedian.
Yeah, well, mate, I'm more than just a beard. I do a lot of things.
Yeah. You're much bigger than I thought you'd be.
And it is a great beard.
Thank you very much, sir. I eat me veggies. I'm quite a tall human being. I'm 6'8", so about 120 kilos. So a lot of people get that sort of surprise when they meet me because the camera may add 10 pounds, but it certainly takes off a lot of height. So they don't really expect that. But
I thought you were a little guy.
Yeah, so most people do, and then I just come out because I'm a little guy. I talk a lot of shit online, right? That's my game. I just talk shit about people, and then they meet me in real life, and they're like, "Oh, that's dangerous."
I had a problem with you until I met you.
I had a problem with you.
But mate,
we're good now, though.
Yeah.
I've been doing stand-up for coming up 5 years now, and started in Newcastle and Sydney doing open mic nights, and something I always wanted to do. And then over time started opening for some bigger guys across the country, and then thought to myself, the best way to reach and to get an audience is through the online sort of spectrum, and started making YouTube videos. I made 2 videos every week for a year, got nowhere. No one gave a shit, and then one video went well, and then another video went well, and I'm about to have about 1 million subscribers. So it's
unreal. What's the name of your channel so people can...
Just my name.
You're not going to get any viewers from us, but yeah.
That's okay.
Maybe my mum will subscribe to
I hope so. Isaac Butterfield. So you just look that up. If you Google, if you type in the letter I in YouTube, I'll come up first. That's how much of a big deal I am now.
Nice. Excellent.
Lovely compliment.
I've made it.
Yeah, you don't even have to type it in. You just have to open YouTube. YouTube will know.
With it in your head. You just have to be thinking it. And then it'll come up as a favourite.
So, and starting a podcast next week. One of the first episodes will be with you, Robert, and it's looking very, very much looking forward to that. Having a big old chat. Mate, it's going to be on fire. It's going to be unstoppable.
Pretty crazy. I think.
People will forget the name Rogan when it comes to podcasts. But just doing all that, and currently on an Australian tour, and we're going over the UK as well and New Zealand. So. Heading up this week to Townsville and Cairns and Darwin, and then back down south, and was in Tasmania the other week, and up in Airlie Beach last week. And I was actually in Airlie Beach the first time I've ever been there. I don't know if you've been there. Very nice, very nice spot.
Beautiful.
And mate, I'm a massive pussy, right? I hate doing adrenaline stuff. I'm not into that at all. And one of this old mate, he emailed me. He said, "Mate, do you want to come and do an acrobatic flight?" And I was like, "There's no way."
What's an acrobatic flight?
So an acrobatic flight is like those guys who do the flips in the air.
Fuck that.
Flip. Yeah, well, that's what I've always said. And then I said, "No, I'm going to do this." Massive regret, by the way, in hindsight. So I turn up, and it's this Russian. What's it called?
A Spitfire?
No, but yeah, it looks like that. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Built in 1990. It's got about 1 million rivets all over the wings. 1990. 1990.
Okay.
30 years old.
Nah.
Terrifying. Right?
No.
I wouldn't drive a car that old.
I don't trust Qantas now. Like.
Yeah, would you get in a car that's 30 years old?
Nah.
Yeah, you're done.
It doesn't have airbags. And
I'm pretty sure you don't need to wear seatbelts if the car's 30 years old.
Because you're a dumb cunt. Nobody cares if you fucking die.
It's a choice.
Well, mate said to me, "Mate, you need to wear your seatbelt in this." I was like, "Oh yeah, obviously." He goes, "No, but seriously, if we go upside down and you're not strapped in properly, the perspex won't hold you and you'll fall out of the plane.
Nah.
So I was like, yeah, bro, strap me up. Yeah, that sounds good. So he's this madman. And we jump in, and I've got a video of it.
Did you get motion sickness?
Oh, Crook has. I said to him, mate, you know, I'm being a bit of a pussy here, but we've got to stop because I'm going to spew in your plane. I've got a show in 3 hours. I don't want to be Crook all afternoon. But he takes off. We take off at 200 k's an hour, like a normal plane. And then we're just sort of gliding, and I'm looking around, you know, looking at all the...
How big is it?
It's, I'll show you a photo. It's tiny.
Okay.
It's a tiny, and I know for everyone who, you can check out my Instagram actually, whichever camera I'm looking at. You can check out my Instagram if you want to see this particular plane, because it's a great looking plane. And so we're climbing, and instead of a plane, you know, you fly Virgin. Shout out to Virgin, gold member here, right here. What's going on? You fly out there, and it's you know, you climb pretty slowly. So it's one of those.
No, it's fucking.
Yeah.
It's not a plane, dude.
It's not a plane. It's a paper plane. And so he goes from, you know, going at 200 k's an hour. He increases the speed to 500 k's an hour and goes from 20 meters off the ground to like 400 meters off the ground in 2 seconds. And at this point, I'm looking at all the dials because they're all in Russian, trying to read what's going on. And because of the G-force of him taking off and going that quick, I can't look up. So I know I'm going up, but I can't lift my head because it weighs 5 times its normal weight. I can't lift it up. And I get up there, feel crook as a dog. I'm looking out. I can't see where I am. Next minute, we're upside down. Then he's doing flips, and I'm on the intercom going, what are you fucking doing, mate? Leave me alone.
So you're sitting behind him?
I'm behind him. And, mate, and the scary part is he can't disconnect the control of the plane from me because there's there's the stick thing, whatever it's bloody called, there's the throttle and all that type of stuff. In that plane, for whatever legal reason, you can't disconnect the control. So I have full control of the plane if I want to take it, which is a scary thing for him. He's letting some random person get in the back of his plane, and old mate could just like pull the stick.
But you could just panic and do it.
Yeah, or you try to grab onto something. Like, I didn't expect any of this. Like, I don't know if anyone out there's done this type of stuff, but the G-force thing is incredible. Like, he has just control of you. We went upside down across Airlie Beach, upside down at 400 k's an hour, doing barrel rolls.
Did you have your eyes open?
Yeah, it was the worst experience of my life. Everyone, he says, mate, everyone gets out and they're like, I'm so glad I did that. No. I got out and I was like,
no,
never again.
Nothing about what you said makes me want to do it.
No.
I'm feeling motion sick now, listening to you.
Yeah.
I get motion sick so bad.
It was so bad, man. It was so bad.
There's a guy that lives around the corner from me, and he restores those types of airplanes, World War II airplanes actually, so older ones. Yeah. And his mate crashed and died in doing that shit, and I was just like,
oh. Well, I'm glad I did this podcast after I did it.
I'm always a bear. I'm like the good news bandit, the good news panda.
Well, he used to have a biplane, this dude, and he hit a drone taking off and had to crash land into the water. This is what he tells me as we're waiting to take off. I'm like, well, have you banned drones around this joint?
You're not meant to fly drones,
it's Airlie Beach Airport. No one cares. There's no security. You just get on.
Yeah, so I didn't even know they had an airport.
Well, they've got one, and they've actually got houses, like multi-million-dollar houses there that have big garages for people's planes. So they live on the runway.
Really?
Yeah. It's something I never... Apparently it's quite popular in the States, but I never knew that even existed. But driving out to take off, there's all these houses with massive garages.
Yeah, what do you need? Why do you need a plane accessible like that all the time?
It's just car. It's just like cars. People are just. It's just whose dick's the biggest. They're just like, oh yeah, I've got a little Cessna. Oh dear. Check out my Spitfire. You know.
Hey, what made you want to do comedy? Because to me, I think like stand-up comedy's got to be like the scariest thing like that. Other than that crazy shit you just spoke about then, but stand-up comedy to me, like I can't imagine doing that.
I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. But I don't know. I wanted to play footy growing up. My old man played footy, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I wanted to play for Newcastle. That was my dream. And I was a very overweight kid and realised pretty early on they weren't going to put me on the field. So I thought, oh, well, we'll give something else a go. And I used to watch a lot of Billy Connolly with my pop and my grandma back in the day, and a lot of the stand-up that was on the ABC back then. And then I come in contact through probably YouTube with Jim Jeffries. And people like him, Jimmy Carr, Bill Burr, all these type of guys when I was at high school. And I just thought to myself, this is what I really want to do. This is probably about 14 years old. And then just over time, when there was a school thing, I would do the speech there or whatever, and it would always be, humor based. And so I've probably been doing stand-up for a lot longer than I said I have been. But, properly, actually sitting down, writing 5 minutes of material, about 5 years. And the only way I got into it was through Joe Rogan's podcast. And that was, I think he was doing a podcast with Joey Diaz, and he was talking about how you actually get started. Because there's no science to it. There's no guide. It's not like you do a university degree and this is how you get to the top. It's just trying. It's just hoping that things work. And so I was listening to him, and he said, "Listen, you got to write 5 minutes material, go and test it out at an open mic night, and hope it goes well. And then just through time and through perfecting your craft, eventually, hopefully, something will work for you."
How long does it take to get 5 minutes of material?
It could take a day, it could take an hour, it could take a year. It depends on how good you are, how good the piece is. It could be a shitty little 5 minute bit, but it gets a couple of laughs, or it could be the best 5 minute bit of all time. But a really good 5 minute bit might take, let's say 2 weeks to write, but it might take 2 years to tour around and get perfect.
And then you now, right? So when you have a gig, how long does your gig go for?
I'd probably spend about 70 minutes on stage.
That's a long time. And you got to get used to the ebb and flow, because it's not like you're smashing people after 70 minutes.
It's hard to do that. It's hard to do that.
Yeah.
And people enjoy having a bit of a break too. Like they start to hear a story, or maybe you don't want to just hit them with just...
Yeah.
Because then the hard shit, when you say it or you do whatever, it doesn't have the same sort of...
the punchline.
Yeah, the punch isn't as hard, If you hit them with hard shit the whole show, then people just they don't care as much. But my first show I did on my last tour, which was started... probably, I think it was June last year, first week of June last year. I did 2 shows in Sydney on the first night and 1 show in Wollongong on the second night. And in that weekend, I did more time on stage than I ever did in my open mic career of 3 or 4 years. I'd never done an hour before, and that was terrifying, just to think, how am I going to get this time on stage? Because an hour is, as you said, a long time. Now it's just, I just do it. That's my job, I'm just used to it. But the first time I did it was just horrific.
How scary is doing the open mics and that?
It wasn't too bad.
Is it better now though that people know who you are, so that people go into your shows after that type of humor?
Yeah.
Does that make a difference?
Yeah, they know. It's like going to see a band.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get. So the people that come to my shows, people often assume that my fans, the people that follow me, are all young blokes who are just pigs. Mate, my audience is 50-50 male, female, every religion, creed, colour, whatever. It's always a big mix. And I think that's really important. And that's what a lot of people don't get about my style of humour. I say some horrible shit on stage, but it all comes from a good place. None of it's hate.
But say when you were coming up and doing 5 minute hits and you were going somewhere and it was a motley crew of people, what was that like?
Well, it's always been okay. But I have had shows where you have a room full of 70-year-old women, and my shit just doesn't fly. They don't want to hear that. But
what do you do when that happens?
You just die a horrible death.
Have you had bad ones?
Oh, all the time.
Tell us one of them.
Mate, the worst show I've ever done was my old man was a part of the city team in the rugby league, sort of like New South Wales versus Queensland, except it's
city versus country,
where it's basically they pick the 2 best teams from that team to play for New South Wales, or at least that's the way it used to be. So my old man was the defensive coach with Brad Fittler, and he talked to Freddie about, my young bloke's trying comedy out. This is I'm a year in, and he said, maybe you could come up and do a gig for the boys. So I jumped at the chance. I was like, let's do it. And so I get there, we go to a pub. I think I'm going to do it at the pub. I've got my nice shirt on. I'm trying to look flash. I'm going over my notes and all that type of stuff. And we get back on the bus and we're heading back to the hotel. And Freddie goes, I forgot, mate. Why don't you just do it on the bus? I was like, absolutely. I wish you asked me that earlier. Let's do that. That's a great idea. There's no microphone. I just use the bus mic. This little square, little tiny thing that the
no
cord,
one's looking at.
The cord's that long. I'm standing at the front of the bus. I'm hiding with the driver. and I'm trying to tell jokes, and David Clemmer, who's the New South Wales front row, is just screaming at me how much I suck and all this type of stuff, and I'm just dying a horrible death. It gets to the point where the only laugh I could get was the players. For some reason, and this is with blokes, I don't know about you guys in the fight game, but especially with footballers, it's a very homoerotic sort of situation a lot of the time. They start screaming, get your dick out, get your dick out. The whole bus was clapping to get me dick out. And obviously, as a comedian, about 20 years old, I got me dick out. No. At least I got a laugh. That was the only thing.
No. But that is rock bottom.
I was there. I was there, man.
That's horrible.
I have no story to parallel that.
It was terrible. It was so bad. I ended up just like screaming at players, and it was nothing you can do.
That's kind of like they raped you.
Oh, I was emotionally raped.
No, physically. Wow.
It wasn't a Mad Monday. I wasn't physically raped.
This went down like.
But on top of that, I get to do theatres now. And I'm about to do the Enmore in Sydney, which I can't wait to do, a massive room, and the Civic Theatre in Newcastle, which I grew up wanting to do.
Yeah. I gotta ask, does an experience like that, like hitting rock bottom, like figuratively, like in your
that was pretty bad.
Thing, like plummeting and like not hitting the punchline, does that make it easier from then on? Because you're like, what? It can't be as bad as that.
Absolutely. It's the same thing with the plane thing the other day. I had turbulence coming home from Brisbane, and my tour manager Zach's freaking out, panicking. I go, mate, at least we're not upside down. Who gives a fuck? We'll be fine.
It's true. Remember that turbulence we had that day?
Yeah, we had turbulence going down to Melbourne.
Going down to Melbourne?
Yeah, right. I don't know what was happening, but it was honestly the worst thing I've ever felt, because it wasn't just going down, it was going up, down, left, right.
No.
To the point where like everybody in the plane had their heads down.
Yeah, it was over. Like everyone was like...
And the flight attendants
were not around.
Were strapped in, heads down on their knees. Like
what? On their knees?
Yeah, like
their heads were on their knees.
Everyone was praying. Yeah. Like everyone was praying. Like it was bad.
Like, except the guy next to me. The guy next to me was trying to sell me like this franchise
life insurance.
Dude, no, he was trying to sell me this gym franchise because of Rob, and I was just like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, this is not the last thing I want to think about.
You're gonna die right now.
But he just kept going. He was doing the hard sell.
Yeah, he probably travels all the time. He's used to it.
He said that to me. He's like, no, mate, these things have got all these... He's just talking like this, blah, 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 and everyone else is like this.
Yeah. The flight... you're in shit when the flight attendants are preparing for the worst.
Yeah, when they're panicking because they fly all day.
When they're strapped in, you're worried.
Yeah, and they were quiet. Like, they weren't like... You could see them when you looked
There's no smiling.
You could hear the air flowing through the thing. Like, it was dead silent. So for about 2 years, I had like anxiety flying. Like I'd get like bad sweats and things like that, and then eventually went.
Yeah. I mean, it comes good after some time, but it's the same with gigs, man. Like you just get bad ones sometimes, and that's fine.
Even to this day, like.
No, not so much now. I mean, people come out to see me, but like if I do a spot somewhere, and I did a spot in Perth. I did the Perth Fringe Festival, and sold out all the shows. It was really, really cool. I was just testing new material, and I just went and helped out a mate who had a show at 12 o'clock at night. And I went up there and did a couple of jokes, and they just bombed hard. And I've been doing a week of sold-out shows. Like, I know these jokes work. And that's often the thing with stand-up is often it's the audience, not the jokes. So it's a really weird thing to sort of wrap your head around. And it's also it almost sounds like a cop-out, but I've seen it. And these people hated me. They started booing me and all this type of stuff. And obviously, being the level-headed person I am, I started calling them the C word and fuck off and all this type of shit because I'm a bit of an asshole. But... it got to the point where I just like, I got off stage and then my mate got on who was running the show and he said, Isaac, I got a level with you. I told everyone in the crowd not to laugh at anything you said before you got up. And like, that would have been really funny. But I've just insulted some woman in the front row.
You weren't part of the joke.
I've become a huge pig. Everyone hates me. I've ruined my reputation in Perth. So, shout out to those people from Perth. I'll be coming back one day.
Wow. He told everyone not to laugh at your shit.
Yeah. So you stand up there and you deliver. This is the most horrible thing about stand up when you bomb is you deliver a piece of material. You got a big smile on your face and silence. And you're just like.
It would have been cool if you shared the joke with me beforehand.
Is it always in Oz? Always in Australia?
Well, this tour, I'm heading to NZ, which I'm really excited about. Never been over there. I'm heading to the UK as well.
Sorry, just
Robs.
Put the thing on.
High up.
Yeah, and turn it around, it's facing down.
So,
So I'm heading to NZ, heading to the UK, doing Ireland, Scotland, and England, and then starting next year going over to America.
how much is the difference crossing over the humor between? Because I think US humor to Australia humor, because we get so much US media, it's probably not that big, but Australian to US humor. What,
I mean, I
your
don't.
experiences or things you've heard.
I hear that it's similar. You can get away with a lot because I mean, there's obviously a lot of Aussies over there, and I'll just see. I mean, I had some English guys at the show in Ely Beach on the weekend, and they loved it. So, I mean, hopefully that translates for the whole country. I don't know. I just have to see. And then, obviously, you know, it's like with fighting. You know, if your first tactic doesn't work, you plan, then you move to plan B. Or you sit in between rounds and you go, okay, that's not working. I sit in between jokes and I go, okay, that's not working.
So do you make a piece directed towards a certain audience, or do you have certain pieces that you think, well, these guys might react to this better?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, if the really hardcore fans or the really hardcore comedy fans are there, they'll take anything. Then I'll go really hard. You know, if I'm doing I very rarely do like shows for people, but if I'm doing a gig for a mate or a favour for charity, then obviously I'll dull it down a little bit. I won't go full my sort of
you can't
style.
Go crazy at like a children's foundation.
No, I have done that. But when I used to do open mic nights, they used to have kids eat free meals on the same night the open mics, and I'm talking about dicks and all this type of shit. There's kids there eating nuggets. Fucking awful.
Do you feel funny doing that?
Yeah, I feel awful.
But you have to cut it wrong because you've got a piece, like you got a job to do.
I do it. You just got to do
but
it.
You just, as you're staring in some little kid's eyes while he's like,
8-year-old.
He's like with his nuggets and his sauce. He's like,
I do this bit about if sperm could talk, and it's like a 10-minute bit about sperm. It's actually, it sounds ridiculous, but it's not bad. And I just had this older lady sitting in the front row next to her kids who were at the show. They were about 19 years old, who loved like all that type of stuff. And she was just looking at me through that whole bit like, what are you doing?
Do you prefer to have that intimacy where you can full see people in a small thing, or you want a big show?
Well, the thing with stand-up is, and any stage sort of, anything with a stage, is you can only really see the front 2 rows, maybe the third, because the lights are just so full on in your eyes. You can't see anything. When you put those lights up, it's a lot more scary. But you just can't see people.
How nervous do you get before a show?
I used to never get nervous, and now I get more nervous because people have invested money into coming along and laughing. And I think I just treat
expectations, because
it's my job now. And I treat YouTube, I treat everything like a job, because I'm trying to get a house and all that type of stuff. And this is how it happens. It's going to happen for me, sort of thing. So I treat it all very, very seriously. Although I go out there and have a really good time and I love what I do, I wouldn't want to do anything else. It's a job, and if I fuck up, then I know that okay, I'm affecting my work, sort of thing. So I treat it very seriously. I've also, the main anxiety for me that comes with shows has come from, so I've got a form of epilepsy, and basically all that happens is, it used to happen when I was playing footy every now and then, is I lose control of my head, right? So my eyes start to, imagine you're trying to look behind yourself, and you start looking behind yourself, you go blind in this eye, and your head turns like that. For about 10 seconds, you remain completely conscious. So I used to take a hit up, and every now and then, because of the whiplash sort of effect, I would lose control of my head, and have to just like sort of sit on the ground for 10 seconds until it come back.
So when you say you lose control of your head and you do this,
yep.
Do you lose control of your legs? Like,
nope.
do you sit?
No, absolutely fine.
So you're just doing this?
You lose control of your head, but your equilibrium is affected. So I can stand up, but it's hard. It's harder to stand up. So I have to sort of I just sort of sit down, so I'm not like spinning around like an idiot. It's happened in the ocean too, which was terrifying. But yeah, you just sort of like spinning around like this, getting hit with waves. But it's something I've had for about 4 or so years. So that's my biggest fear on stage, is having one of those. Which really, probably the only way to sort of combat that is to have one and just deal with it.
You've only had it for 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
How before that you never had it?
Never had it.
And so it happened when you were like 20?
Yeah.
For the first time?
I was laying in bed and it just sort of happened. I was like, that was weird. And then probably 2 years later, often like blokes do, you sort of put it off and you never go see a doctor. And I went and saw a doctor on my 21st birthday on the exact day. And he said, that's really weird. That sounds like this disease. And I was like, what's that disease? He goes, you know, people in wheelchairs who are like that. And I said, you think I'm going to be like that? He goes, oh, I'd rather not say. So this is, yeah. What the fuck? I know. I was like, you fucking serious, mate?
You should have not said it if you didn't want to say it.
Don't say anything.
So then the worst thing about anything to do with the brain is you got to get into a neurologist. And getting into a neurologist is exceedingly difficult because you have to because there's so many people trying to get in. And it's not like another doctor where you go, oh, I've got a really bad skin condition, can you squeeze me in? No, everyone's got something bad when they go to a neurologist. So it's a 6-month wait to get in, particularly in Newcastle. Like this is only like 2 of them or something.
Yeah.
So I get in and he
he's
does.
the baker too.
Yeah.
Baker also runs the water on the weekend.
He's an Uber driver. And he does the scans. I go in and then get an MRI. I don't know if you've ever had an MRI. Especially on the head. It's terrible. It's this tiny little space. You can't focus on anything. Awful.
I hate MRIs.
The
so
worst.
uncomfortable.
Terrible. Like, why wouldn't they make that like sort of slightly comfortable? That's what people do. They lay in them. Like, put a bed in there. Anyway, so I get it done, and everything came back normal. Everything was fine. So there was no signs of MS, no signs of anything bad, no signs of anything that from the concussions I'd had playing footy, from getting knocked out several times, all that type of business, and which was great news. And it just come down to, old mate said over time that, we think you've got frontal lobe epilepsy, some form of it. We can't really put a name on it, but it should go away over time. And yeah, just, I think that sort of thing, like that led to me having a lot of like being scared on stage, not because of the crowd, not because of the jokes, but because I don't want to be embarrassed, sort of thing. And it led to a lot of anxiety in life as well. That's why I wear like this type of shirt here that we were speaking about earlier. This is from a company called Livin', and they're based on the Gold Coast, I'm pretty sure, up there. And they look after men's mental health, and it's something that I work a lot with, talking about in videos and about my own problems with it. Because it's a hilarious concept that people sort of go through in their lives, where you don't really understand like severe anxiety. Or I've never had depression, but I talk for anxiety, like these crazy panic attacks. I had panic attacks every single day throughout the day for 2 years. Like it's full on. It controls your life. And thankfully I had people around me that were able to help me out and put me in the right direction.
What was because I probably a year ago I had real bad for not every day, but I had every day for about 3 months, and that was about as much as I wanted to have. But even now, like that was a year ago, even now I'm not good. Like me and my business partner Alex Pradis were talking about this yesterday. Like even now, for example, like I've lost heaps of strength physically. Like if you look at me, I look more
big.
Oh, no, I'm massive. No, but if you look at me, I look more or less the same, you know, like I did. You wouldn't be able to tell, but like now I probably can start to do push-ups properly and that again. Like I haven't gotten my strength back, and my neural system just went from the anxiety attacks. And I don't think a lot of people understand. It's not like you're just sitting there going, "Oh, I don't want to go to the shops. I don't want to go to the shops." No. It's bigger than that. Can you speak on it?
The way I explained it to my old man, because he's told me, because he's a old school guy. He's just like, and he'd never had those sort of problems. He would say, "Mate, you just need to calm down." I was like, "Dad, honestly, it's like even sitting on the lounge watching the telly. It feels like everything's relaxed, everything's cool. I'm with my family, great. It feels like there's a lion next to me about to attack me." That's
what I say to people. I say, like, if there's 3 or 4 of us here, it's like we're all sitting here, everything's cool, and I say, "Hey, there's a brown snake in this room. You can't see it."
Yeah.
And as we're talking, Eli drops dead. Do you know what I mean? And then you fucking, I could be next. That's the fucking feeling. And you can't. But the thing is, man, even that older generation, it's because I hear people say it. It's not that they didn't have it. What happened with those older generations? I'm not talking about your dad, but I'm just saying the whole thing. My parents, my parents are staunch, like South American old school people, like. But that generation, they drink.
Yeah.
They fucking finish work, go to the pub, drink, come home. They still. My dad never did, but I'm saying they still beat their wives. They still fucking. People still had affairs. People fucking lost their minds. All that shit. It's just it wasn't spoken about. But mental health is not new.
Well, alcohol is an anti-anxiolytic.
100%, yeah.
And a lot of people, that's what I talk about a lot, is a lot of people, I used to drink pretty heavily when I was a kid, like most people, you know, from 18 to 22 sort of thing. And I ballooned out and I got on a keto diet for the epilepsy, actually, and it stopped it. It was really interesting. That's why I got on that to help with that. And I also lost like 35 kilos from it. I got down to like 94, which was just way too skinny. I looked terrible. But the control that people think they have over their lives, and then when they have a sort of mental illness sort of creep in, and even that word, mental illness, people are like, no, I don't have mental illness.
Yeah.
It's just like having a cold. You know, everyone has illnesses, and it doesn't mean you're going to be crazy for life. That was one of my big fears. I thought I was going to...
Yeah, when you're going through anxiety, it's the fucking worst.
Because you have these worries. You have these anxious thoughts. Your brain takes over. It goes into survival mode. In fact, it decreases in size. It shrinks.
And your amygdala increases.
It just turns into this mess inside your head. And this is what I'm trying to help with people and talk about, because, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, you look at me, a big dude, got the world at my feet, everything's going really, really well. But at that year when everything was really successful, I was at my worst place. And a lot of people talk about just depression being an issue, and obviously it's an issue, but anxiety's up there as well.
Yeah, but I will say this, man. I've never had depression, but I was in a hospital because I was actually staying here before we set it all up. I was staying here, and I had this fucking image of fucking. This is so funny when I say it. I don't do anything. Like, somebody wrote on the thing, but it's true. Like, I'm the kind of person that, like, I'll stop at the lights in Grand Theft Auto. Like, I don't break the law. I don't do anything, you know. But I had this image because of my accountant, who's actually like the straightest guy you've ever met. Something would have gone wrong with something, and no bullshit, like the federal police were going to come and get me. And I was saying to my wife, they're coming, you know, they're coming, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, nah, man, like, you don't do anything. I think she would like me to have a bit more excitement in my life, but I don't. And then there's this voice, not an external voice, in a monologue, you know, that was saying to me, you should hang yourself, dude, because federal police is coming. You're going to end up fucking swapping fucking peanut butter sandwiches for fucking sex in prison. You know, you're not going to...
Terrible swap.
Yeah. That's what's going to happen to you. That's what's going to become...
Get your receipt after that. That's awful.
Bad trade.
That's what's going to happen to you, you know? And that's all these thoughts are going on in my head, man. And then, like, I lost control of my arms and legs, and they were shaking bad. The ambulance came, because I didn't know what it was. Now, if you have anxiety... No, but the ambulance came and took me to the hospital. And like the whole time, I'm losing my fucking mind. I'm going to end up in a mental home. But the one thing I was like, please don't give me depression. That I can remember vividly saying that to myself. Don't. If there's a God, please, you know I've always played by the rules. If there isn't, still I played by the rules. So please be good to me. Don't give me depression. That's one. Because when I had them real bad, I was in Hawaii. They were coming back from filming The Ultimate Fighter. You know, when we were coming back, I had this image of me being homeless in Hawaii, and it was a bad place to be homeless because most of the homeless dudes are like, they're Polynesian, so they're fucking still jacked, man. And I was like, fuck, man, I'm going to be fighting for space here. I thought, these are real thoughts. These are real fucking thoughts.
Big islander.
Yeah. And no, they were big dudes still, you know? Yeah. Like, they were still big. Yeah. And I was like, how am I going to get fucking trolley space or anything? I'm not. Like, but all this shit was like, it's bad, man. It's real, real bad.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of people deal with it. And I think the more the people in places of influence speak about that, it is an issue that people deal with. And an issue, one of the things I liked hearing was that other people were going through it because you feel 100%. So alone.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things, that fear that you had when you were getting back on the plane after that horrible turbulence. Like, to live with that all day and for no reason, like, that's the big one. You're like, why? You know, mine came from the epilepsy and having it when I was running water for my footy team, and I had it and it was very embarrassing. I didn't want to have another one. That was where it came from. It's amazing how the mind works, and that's what I've sort of learned. But
there's massive ignorance around mental health and all that type of shit, and even from people. Eli, you got a mate. I'm not going to mention his name, but you'll know the kind of person that, you know who it is. We know a guy, Eli and I, that he's a bit older than us. His mate killed himself. He was probably about my age when he killed himself, almost 40. And I was talking to the dude, and the dude's like, you know, I don't know why he killed himself. It's so, you know, that's such a weak thing to do. You know, he probably wanted attention and blah, blah, blah. And he's just talking like this. And I'm like, dude fucking, he must have been weak and blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking like,
It's such a shit attitude.
yeah, that's probably why he never fucking spoke to you, dickhead. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you're a dickhead.
Well, it's important who you surround yourself with, like that's a big one. And I learned that at a pretty young age. I was surrounded by a lot of people who were negative people. And you just got to get people in the right sort of mindset. People who are trying to move forward. And that's hard as a young dude. Like there aren't that many people. People are just cruising,
So you don't realise that you're surrounded by bad people because you're caught in the circle.
Yeah.
You're stuck in the loop. You're in the system still, sort of thing.
That negative feedback loop.
Yeah, and you don't know any better. You're just stuck there with everybody. And
you don't know that you're in a negative spot until somebody takes you out and says, "Oh, these things are possible."
And then you look from the outside and you're like, "Wow, that is bad."
Even if you're trying to do something, like you're trying to move forward, you're trying to progress your career, like people will just try and keep you down.
Oh yeah, 100%.
People hate success, and people
they do.
People hate seeing people do well.
Yeah, it's a crazy idea.
Do you ever, aside from like the jokes are good, things good, whatever. Yeah, no, they're fantastic. Do you ever go out there and be like, "Fucking, it's not on today. I don't feel." You know how you say sometimes like you can't get into the fight.
Yeah,
might take you like sometimes you can't get into it at all.
Yeah, your mind just can't go to the place it needs to.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of a joke and I'll start thinking about like just something weird. Not weird, but like just something completely off topic. And you'll just be speaking. And you're not really into the moment. And I think that's something that just time and consistency and really like switching on when you go on stage or you go in the cage or you do whatever you're doing. I think that just becomes an easier thing, an easier switch to make that change in your mind where this is where I'm working. This is where I need to be on point. But yeah, it happens all the time, especially when you're doing something a lot.
Yeah, so do you get to a point where you're sort of like autopilot?
It's a complacency thing, I guess.
And you're complacent and you're not feeling the joke? You're not feeling it?
Yeah.
Do you still pull it off?
Yeah. I'm a professional.
You're a champion.
But yeah,
I'm not a weak fuck like you.
No, bro, it happens. And you just got to like, if you had a bad set or a bad day, you just got to push it aside, leave it, and make sure the next time you do it, it's perfect.
Along those lines, like the same sort of thing, like, because I've recently gotten into Twitch streaming, and there are days like it is the worst thing in the world. Like I want nothing more than not to stream and talk to people because I have more of a recluse nature where it's like when I feel down, I just want to go to a little corner somewhere and curl up in a ball and cry. But because you have to produce like 2 to 3 videos a week.
3 videos every single week. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go on, Rob.
Yeah, but like that's hard.
Yeah.
You have to try to engage your audience because as we were just speaking then, there's a big difference between just saying your lines and being invested in the lines and engaging your audience and making them feel like they're a part of it. How do you get to that place every week, twice a week, if not more, because you're working your stand-up shows as well? And especially in moments like, let's say generally, but in moments when you're like, today was a hard day to get through. I need to go to bed and just try again tomorrow.
Well, the thing with a lot of YouTubers, and I'm a comedian and a YouTuber, right? People, I was going over at NZ, and this one venue wouldn't book me because they said, "Oh, we don't take YouTube comedians." So what the fuck are you talking about?
You're fucking New Zealand.
Yeah. Get over it. You're lucky anyone wants to come here. Wake up yourself.
Jesus.
Wow.
And I split them. So they're both my jobs, but they're very different jobs. A lot of YouTubers, when they get into the game, they get success, they get it early, and they fade away into nothing. I treat it as like anyone else would with their job, right? So I sit down Monday morning, I plan out my videos for the week. I train in the morning. I get home, plan my videos for the week. I start writing. Train on Tuesday morning, write the videos in the afternoon. Train on Wednesday morning, make sure the videos are filmed. Train Thursday morning, make sure they're edited. And Friday is usually a cruisier day. But it just happens. You get in that routine. Yeah. It has to happen. There's no, maybe I'll only do 2 this week. Because that's a mindset that I've had for a long time. With a lot of things, I like to give up. But with this stuff, it's like, no. Because I know that as soon as I stop producing content, then I will go the way of all these other people where I've left everyone's, the front of their mind, what they expect. They expect this to happen. It's like with the TV, because people are like, they're so used to TV, where the TV show they like comes on at this time every single day or every single week, and they watch it. That's why they're a fan. So as soon as I disappear from that, maybe it's just a fear of mine.
No, but it's 100% true.
Yeah, it's you got me into that mindset a lot with in regards to like the podcasting and a lot of other things. It's like I just started with one day, just Wednesdays. I'm going to do a stream, and it doesn't matter what quality it is.
Yeah,
it just has to go out there, and you just have to do it. And just that mindset of routine and staying in the routine and not breaking away from routine really, really does make it a lot easier and a lot better.
I mean, it's the same with training. Like if you say to someone who's never trained before in any discipline ever, okay, I want you to turn up 6 days a week. Very difficult to do. But if you do 3 days a week for 6 months, and then you increase it to 4, and then all of a sudden that's just what you do.
And it doesn't matter. Like you just got to get to training and just start. Like that's when we started with the podcast. I mean, we're still just growing, you know what I mean? We're still a thing. But if we stopped and went, oh, fuck, you know what? We'll only do it when everything's perfect.
Yeah. It never happens.
It'll never, ever happen, man. And you got to create the habit and keep going and just keep doing it. And eventually you'll get to that spot. You don't start playing in the NBA. You start playing at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you never make the NBA and you end up doing a fucking podcast with 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
But
that's good. But those 10,000 subscribers, they grow.
Yeah.
Look at Rogan. He was started with, he had a bit of, momentum behind him from Fear Factor and comedy. But, mate, he had Bernie Sanders on the other day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mel Gibson. This is massive.
Huge.
Podcasting is a great way to reach people. And you guys offer a great setup with video, audio, you've got lighting set up, and people get behind this. As soon as people find out, because you've got to remember, you have 10,000 subscribers, but there's millions of people who still haven't heard of you who would probably like to be a part of it. It just happens over time.
Just shout us out as much as you can, mate. All right?
I will. Fuck yeah.
Just do that for us.
Let's do it. Why not?
So you have brothers and sisters?
I've got 4 younger brothers.
Oh, what are they? Are they going to be YouTubers, comedians?
No, I've got my brother, the second eldest in my family, Rory. He's 22. He's autistic, so he can't speak. He can't look after himself. Beautiful human being, but he's still lives at home and whatnot. My other brother Jonas, he's just started training at my gym, Warrior World Gym in Newcastle. If you're in Newcastle, go and train there. Shout out to Paulie, got your brother. He just started training there. He's a young footballer. He'll make first grade.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's a great young player. The brother Darcy, mate, he's 16 or something. He's almost taller than me, almost. And my other brother Finton,
does he play basketball?
Nah, he plays soccer. Plays in the goals. So but he's a funny dude. He could be a comedian if he wanted to.
Okay.
So I got a big family there. My ma and me dad and all that type of stuff. So I live probably about 10 minutes from their house, so that's good. I still get to catch up with them,
Is that who you run your content through, like your pieces? Or do you have like a certain group you call up?
Not really anyone. Like for YouTube or for stand up.
Let's say stand up.
Stand up. I run it through my missus. She has been with me since almost the very beginning. She encouraged me to do YouTube. She said, "Just do it, mate." She didn't say mate. Just do it, bro. Just do it, mate.
That's how she spoke.
Get on with it, mate.
Just do it, mate. Fucking do it, pussy. But yeah, she encouraged me to do it and has stuck by me through the entire thing. And my old man has been very positive about the whole thing. Like he wanted me to go to uni and stuff. He said, "Listen, if you're going to do stand-up, you do it the best way you can, and you work at it, and you become the best stand-up in the country." And that's what I'm working towards. And
where do you think it comes from for you? Is your dad a funny bloke?
No, terrible.
Your mum?
Oh no, they're not very funny people. They'd like to think they are, but they're not. My grandparents are very funny. My pop's just old school, real dry humor sort of dude, smart ass. My grand's one of those people who's like, she's an old lady, but she still drops F-bombs and look at these pussies and all this type of stuff. And, one of those type of ladies, and she's a real funny person. So probably from that. But also when I was growing up, I got really fat as a kid, and to have friends or to have girls talk to you, you have to be funny. And that's sort of like, sure, it sucked being a fat kid, but without that, I wouldn't have developed.
But it
a
makes
sense
you
of humor.
develop your other levels of your personality and
Absolutely.
whatnot.
You can't run around being a hot bloke your whole life. You get nothing.
No.
Absolutely nothing. Rob disagrees.
Someone's skin.
Did someone say that to you? Did someone tell you?
Hey, don't be like that.
Hey.
Don't be like that, mate. I'm not.
All right. So now for you, how long till you go to the US? You say?
I think it's like January next year, so sometime. Yeah, but it's looking forward to that. Doing LA and New York and probably Texas somewhere in there. It's more just it's not about making money. It's more just going on a holiday and paying for it through ticket sales. And just going to see the world and meet some people and
100%.
do
Not
all that
everybody
type
can
of
do it.
stuff. Got to do it.
Who dares wins?
Absolutely, Mike Whitney. Let's do it.
Excellent. So you're a fan of fight sports and that?
Yeah. So I got.
Do you know who he is?
I've heard this bloke. I got into MMA probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and through a lot of people, but like it got to the point where it was sort of like where McGregor was really coming through. I think when he fought, who was it? His first fight? He came
Sylvia?
before that, prior to that, and it was and he was a big deal. Ronda was on top of the game, and I just sort of not stumbled across it, but I didn't really understand it. Like I'd never been a real boxing fan, but I didn't really understand the sport. I just enjoyed the violence.
Did your dad fight?
He's fought a few. He's had a few boxing fights,
Yeah.
and he's from Penrith, so he fought a lot, I guess. But he's just got into it too. I've just started taking him to the pubs to go and watch the pay-per-views and stuff. And he watched, he saw the Ben Askren knockout, and he saw old mate Masvidal punch him a couple of times in the head. He couldn't believe it. He was like, "What is this sport? It's too violent." when Askren got knocked out, the pub lost the feed. So like the round started. We lost the feed for 6 seconds. Come back.
The fight was well and truly over.
Askren's out. Yeah. And everyone's like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
But no, I got into it and really started just watching every pay-per-view, watching every fight night, all that type of stuff, and listening to fighters. Like I never used to enjoy the podcast that Joe Rogan would have with fighters, but then I started to actually listen to them, and I started training jiu-jitsu probably about a year or so ago, and then started training MMA, just all different variants of the sport probably about 10 months ago with my coach Paul, and it's had such a great impact on my life, and it was also helped with to watch the sport as well, notice the different the intricacies and different movements, and I sort of noticed I was watching going back and watching your catalogue of fights, and you threw this triple jab at I think it was Romero. I can't really remember off the top of my head. But I knew I had become a fan of the art of the sport, where I was more excited with the triple jab that you threw that was so quick. Like I was just like, because we were working on it that day, throwing jabs, and I was just like there's no way people can throw triple jabs. It doesn't work. And then you threw it. I was like, holy fucking shitballs! This is an amazing sport. And now with jiu-jitsu and stuff, I'm working towards training fighting in a comp, jiu-jitsu comp. Hopefully in the next couple of months and all that type of stuff. So getting real balls deep into it at the moment. So it's something I'm glad I found. I lost all interest in rugby league because of it. And I just enjoyed this sport because you never know what's going to happen. And these people are putting their lives on the line every time they step inside them. I don't think there's a better sport out there.
Did you move to Newcastle as a baby?
No, I grew up there. So my old boy was from Penrith and he moved there 1988, and I was born in 93.
Okay, so you were born there, went to school there, everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Okay, what's it like for you there?
I love it.
It's beautiful there, eh?
Honestly, I've been all over the country, almost to every capital city in the country, and it's my favourite place by far. I love Melbourne. I like the Gold Coast. More Broad Beach than the Gold Coast, but it's a nice place. And just mate, Newey, right near the beach. There's always something to do. People, good people. Everyone's pretty relaxed. I just really like it there. It's a good place. Good place to bring up a family, And now that it's more, there's more things to do there. There's there's fight gyms there. There's all different theaters and all that type of stuff. It's really picking up the entertainment side of things, and it's just a good place to be. It's a good medium between here and Sydney. Between there and Sydney, rather.
What happened with you and New Zealand? the whole country of New Zealand that you offended?
Okay.
Because I didn't see the video
Yeah.
that you put up. I never saw it. But I saw that they were horrendously angry at you.
So I made some jokes about sheep shagging. The jokes that have been made, they're in, since the dawn of time.
Yeah, you didn't make them up.
No. And I also, they called me racist.
Based on that?
Based on that.
Yeah.
Well, based on the fact that I said that New Zealanders have hairy feet, which is a reference to hobbits. Not towards any race in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So
even when you said that, I didn't know. Like I was trying to think about what stereotype.
Well, what are you talking about? But the thing is, this is what the newspapers
And I would have made fun of you, but you're too big.
The big white belt.
I got the Hobbit reference straight away.
Yeah, it's a reference to a
clever.
movie. Thank you. Thank you very much. And the papers were like, and the project from NZ, they got on board and they were like, we don't like, this and that. And they sort of, there's a video I've got on my YouTube page, but they sort of said, we don't really like what you're saying and all this type of stuff. And then they cut up the interview to make me look like a bit of a dick. And thankfully, their 100,000 viewers they get a night. I get more views than those guys. And on that video, I had like 2 million views and I got to tell my side of the story, which is always really handy where you can outplay the media. The same thing in Melbourne recently with a joke I did that people said was about the Holocaust, but it was actually about vegan people not being welcome somewhere. And made people played it out like I was this horrible anti-Jew, anti-Semite sort of thing. Man, I've never even met a Jewish person. I live in Newcastle. There's no Jews there, And this whole thing, it went through, and it was in the Washington Post, a small story about it. There was a story in the Melbourne papers, Sydney papers, Brisbane papers. The Jerusalem Times wrote a story about it. I was hated. All these people sending me death threats. I get at least a death threat a week.
Really?
Oh, mate, people are just fucking weirdos. Yeah, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna kill you. All this type of stuff.
But for what? What honestly, what have you done to make that?
I just being outspoken. Just to make a lot of my content's about things that people aren't allowed to talk about. And when people have a real hard line sort of idea with something, then they freak out and they go, no, you can't talk about
But that makes people do death threats.
Death threats, man. Because people would never say it to me in the street, but then because that's behind a computer, you get that all the time, people talking shit. Even the post you put up the other day about having me on. People are like, he's a shit comedian, all that type of stuff. You just can't read comments because people are assholes.
Yeah, that's a big thing. You can't pay attention to the comments. Like they are terrible. You would know better than anybody. Like,
it's ridiculous.
You fall down that sinkhole. My I don't go through the comments a lot. I don't take a thing. But my sister came in. They said, "You having Isaac on the thing?" I was like, "Yeah."
What'd you say?
My sister.
Sorry, fucking what a piece of shit I am. I thought I turned it off. And
I said, "Oh, you watch your stuff?" And she really likes watching your videos.
Awesome.
I was like, well, let's see where this goes. Like,
your sister said she likes watching Isaac.
And it's like, you can't, I don't know, it is what it is. Like, there's got to be people for you and there's got to be people against you. And that's just, I don't think anyone should be sending death threats over anything.
Where did it get left with the people from New Zealand? Like,
but they don't, the people
because that's what I heard. Like, that's the part that I heard was like, how like the whole thing with New Zealand was real bad, and then I tried to find the video, but it got taken down.
No, it got taken down on Facebook.
Okay.
And I posted about it because Facebook said it was racist. People just complained and they reported it or whatever. Man, it wasn't even slightly racist. Like, but this is the thing with society today. People throw out these terms like they are just like they're very much able to throw out any term they want. If someone says something slightly against women, then you're a misogynist. If you say something slightly against someone and they happen to be a different color to you, then you're a racist. If they're gay and you put shit on them, well, you're a homophobe. People just throw these terms out and they lose a lot of their value as well. And that's what people use to discredit me. It doesn't work because people know these people are full of shit, but that's what they try and do. And that's like, so when you Google my name, occasionally something will come up saying that I'm a horrible person because of A, B, and C. But you get to know me, and that's the point of like, with my audience, they know what I'm really like. They know I just put shit on everyone, including myself. And I think that's where the important part of whether it's racist, sexist, whatever, if you make fun of just one group, then that's shit. But if you make fun of everyone, then that makes it okay.
But there's some shitty stuff on Facebook.
Yeah.
I just think for your stuff to get banned, like
There's heaps of shitty stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, it's
Like, I see some horrendous... I cannot stand when I see on Facebook, you know how people record fights? I cannot...
the street fights.
The street fights.
Or three kids jumping one kid or something.
Yeah, or just some dude getting chinned and getting dropped on the concrete. Like, I just...
Smashing his head, yeah.
I cannot stand seeing that stuff. Like, and it shouldn't be allowed to be put up. And if you're the people that put it up, please don't.
Dude, imagine it's your kid,
Because
eh?
it's brutal. And
Yeah.
like regardless, like if we look at it for what it is, two guys had a disagreement, they decided to beef it out, one dude lost. But you don't put his loss all over the internet and then glorify fighting in the street like that. You don't.
People run around screaming world star.
Yeah, like that's just stupid. It's like,
Mate, there's a lot of crap, a lot of violence, a lot of real weird, disgusting stuff. And I'm not too sure how the Facebook algorithm works. I don't upload to Facebook anymore because I'm one ban away from having my channel, my Facebook page deleted. So I just use it for marketing purposes. But man, I've had stuff taken down that's just ridiculous. Like I put up a photo of a Australian feminist, Clementine Ford, who says a lot of shit about men. And I put up a photo of her and a video title that I made on her. And the video title was "Kill All Men" because that was a tweet she sent out, and it was in quotation marks. And I got banned for 30 days for putting
But
that
it was her words,
up.
eh?
She said it,
Yeah.
and it's just like
it's one of those things. You know, honestly, it is. It's X amount of people tag it, and the automated system just goes.
it's too much work.
Yeah,
Just
too much. Like,
get out.
this is a bot.
Yeah.
Like, it's just done. Like, that is no one's actually gone through it going, you know, this looks terrible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna 30 days for you, my friend.
Yeah. Fucking Butterfield, he's done it again.
he's back, guys. He's back again. Look
This
at
prick's
this.
back.
But I was telling my wife before I came here, like, you know, because I was saying to her about you coming on here and that. She barely knows who I am. She does not know who you are.
That's okay.
But we were talking about that. I was just thinking about like the bands and everything that we were talking about. And then there was this lady that pulled up next to me when we ate.
Yeah.
Just before we went in to eat. I don't know, we started talking about something else because I was going to tell you about it. This lady comes in. This has got nothing to do with anything, but it fucking pissed me off and she should be banned from the shops. She parked her car and she'd obviously got this little car that was done up.
Yeah.
And she parked it in two spots, but it was no fucking Lamborghini or nothing. Not that it would matter even if it was. And she took up two spots, and she got out. She was a mess, and she took up two spots. And I'm just looking at her, like the shopping center, and I was just looking at her, and I was just thinking like, there were so many things wrong with that picture, man. And I was just thinking like, the fuck is wrong with you? Why? If I could ban her from the shops, I would. If I had that power, that algorithm.
These people exist.
Yes.
These idiots in the comments.
there
These
is-
fuckwits
that's
who
who they
ban
are.
shit.
That's what I'm saying.
They exist.
Yeah.
They're real people.
No car is worth two fucking spots.
Dude, if you saw the car too, it wasn't that good.
Shut
I don't give a fuck who you are. No car is worth two spots.
She parked two spots like that.
Unless your car is literally like those F-150s or something like that.
big
Has to
Hummers.
take
Yeah,
it has
yeah.
to take up two spots.
No. This
Because
wasn't a
it's-
big car. I don't want to say the name of the car because I don't want her to track me down. She looked a fair bit. She looked a fair bit rougher than me. But yeah, I would say that not all the money for that car was legal. I'd say, you know, rather nefarious sort of person. But still, she parked the car. And that's my point. What you just said before. Like I was looking at her and I was thinking, like, you're the ones. You're the ones that fucking. She was on her phone, you know. She's probably fucking bagging someone, you know what I mean?
You're the one
Reporting
that-
my videos.
Yeah, you're the ones that hit that fucking dislike button.
Yeah,
'Cause you're a
mate.
piece of shit.
Dislike button on YouTube is hilarious. Man, I put up a video and 3 seconds later it's got 4 dislikes.
I have to have them.
I just have to throw it in there. So, you pricks. I've always thought about doing that, like saying like I'll donate $10,000 to charity if no one dislikes this video. Because there'll be some prick. Or if it goes for like 10 hours, I'll press it. But there's always some prick out there, man. Someone trying to bring you down or whatever, and you just got to rise above and not give a shit about those.
I was
people.
just really interested. You said you could donate $10,000. Like, I was going to say, I
Willy-nilly.
haven't got that money.
Like, gee whiz. Shout us out, please.
Tax deductions.
Caught my breath.
Yeah. But then there are other good people in the issue. Like you find like
Heaps of them are
the
good.
the people are terrible. Like don't get me wrong, but then you get the guys that log on and like take the time to write. This was a great bit of content. I love everything you're doing.
No, those
Thanks for
people
sharing." And you
very
feel
enthusiastic
so
thumbs
good
up.
by doing that. You're like, I wish I could find you and hug you. Like,
do you do many like not meet and greets, but you meet many fans outside of just your normal day life? Do you have like after like an after party after fights, that type of thing where people come and say good day? Or
not really. Like I mentioned before, like I don't really party after fights because like partying is usually associated with winning, and sometimes you're not on the winning end. And and then if you start to put that sort of pressure on yourself, it's funny. It should be just treated as a job. You don't go home after work and go celebrate every day.
Sure.
And if you do, then
you probably should.
you should get that looked at.
No, but the thing is, I think if for Rob's personality, for him, the partying will come easy if you won, and everyone wants to be your friend. But he's not that kind of person to begin with. If you're a guy, there's guys that do that. Like even if they lose, they're happy to go and party. So if that's how consistent you're going to be, then cool, keep doing that. But the problem is when there's a massive difference, the disparity between winning and losing is huge. Like it's partying and 50 friends, whatever, and losing is you're sitting by yourself having pizza, and fucking crying. If the difference is that big, you should have a good medium and try and keep that medium.
Yeah, that's my problem. Like I have a very depressive nature. Like I'm depressive by nature, so that if things don't go well, it kind of happens by accident. Not by accident, uncontrollably, I should say. So we don't do too much. As well as like I'm a massive introvert as well. So if I don't have to leave the house ever, I don't. Like literally.
But this Saturday, for example, there's a big meet and greet and everything. We're doing an open workout at Parramatta Westfields.
Beautiful.
In saying that, like exactly as you said, like I do a lot of fan events and things like that through my sponsors and through the media and through my management team, where I get to meet a lot of these fans. Like I went to PAX last year with the Bethesda team, and I got to see a lot of guys down there, that sort of area. And then like the nutrition with Musashi, I got to go to like the fitness expos, and I meet a lot of fans there. And just through these avenues, I see a lot of fans. Like I met yourself, like and all the guys up there, like 3 years ago, we were saying.
Yeah,
and it's very like the Rob and the rest of the team, and it's very accessible. Like train at the gym here in Sydney, don't travel and train anywhere else. We train here in Sydney and at our gym, it's a little gym, Gracie Smith and Grange. Shout out. Yeah. Gracie Atarman, if you're in the area as well.
Yeah.
That's a new gym, yeah?
We're about to open a new gym in Gracie Atarman as well.
If you're that keen on, if you can, just
Stand Strong Boxing, sorry.
Just come join. You can train with me. Like we can roll together. Like it's all good.
Yeah,
no secrets.
The thing is, like with becoming someone who has a fan base, and this is something that I've learned really slowly, it's weird to even talk about yourself in that fashion, but I'll be an asshole into it. You have these people who can't wait to meet you, and it's hard for you to remember that in any respect. Like I remember when I you were up in Charlestown and you were doing, I don't know, you're just having a couple of words and just hanging out with people, right? And we were pumped, man. We were talking about it for weeks before. Like, I can't believe we're going to get to meet Rob, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to watch the fights with him. And that's something that I always have in the back of my mind when I'm meeting people. It's like these people have looked forward to this for, a couple of days or whatever, And when I get people and they're shaking when they're taking a photo or whatever, I always put shit on them. It's like, oh, stop shaking, you're freaking me out, stop shaking. Just to freak them out a little bit. But, it makes people so happy. And these people, they then become more, they're more into your career, and they want to follow you and they want to support you with whatever you do. And, when I was first starting out, I had like a Patreon, and people were using their money to support me, a couple of dollars a month, whatever it was. And these are people I don't forget, because without that, I wouldn't be in the position I was in today. And it's amazing that people want to really, and it was, as we said, there's shit people on the internet, but there's so many more good people that get behind the things they love, and they try and bring them to the top.
No, there are. It's overwhelmingly better people. Like sometimes when I don't often read the comments, but sometimes when I do read the comments, or for Rob's fights or whatever, every now and then you get a fuckwit, you know what I mean? But generally, people are overwhelmingly supportive, I think. I think so. Even for the podcast and that, people are pretty supportive. Every now and then you get a dickhead, it's like, Romero won the second fight. And I think, dude, Romero's over it, mate. Let it go. Like, Romero's good. He's fighting someone else. Do you know what I mean? Just let it go. It's fucking done. It was finished. Let it go. We're all good.
People are ridiculous. Like, I've got this bloke at the moment. His name's Vegan Gains. And he's a big He's sort of like a bodybuilder sort of dude over in Canada, and I've had this run-in with him for a while, and he's this type of dude, like he threatens people online. He's got this whole thing about he had like a knife up to his throat, I'm going to kill this person and all this type of shit. So I naturally called him out because I know he's going to bite. And now he's challenged me to an MMA fight in New York. And, he's the only person I've really thought about actually trying to fight in my entire life because, I've been knocked out for free playing footy. So if I can try and make some cash from it.
Would you do it? Would you do a celebrity fight?
Maybe. I don't know. Paulie, am I ready? Jesus Christ.
Let's pump it up.
As long as I get through the first round.
Come down to Sydney, we'll get you ready.
I just take it straight to the ground. That's all I'll do. Just avoid.
Is he a big guy?
He's so he made a video about me saying, "Oh mate, this Butterfield, what is he? 5'6", maybe 170 pounds."
You?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, sort of.
He's in a roof. He's in for a roof. But he's kept at the end of his jab across the street.
I'll just teep him all day.
And him, how big is he?
The teep kicks.
Say that,
I'm good at
the teep king.
You're teeping from the next suburb.
How big is he?
He's about maybe 6'2", maybe close to 180, 200 pounds.
So he's not a big guy.
Not big, but he's not small, but he's just...
Yeah, but you're significantly bigger.
Yeah, significantly bigger.
But mate, I can't fight for shit. But it's just
fun.
But
you're training with Paul and you're
they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And he's just a hilarious dude, a very negative human being, and people laugh.
Imagine the levers, imagine the big leg kicks.
I don't want to get teep kicked by a dude who's 6'8", 120 kilos. No.
And
you know how big the difference is between 180? That's like
my height.
That's 80 something kilos, 84 kilos ish. No, 80 kilos ish, up against a 120 kilo bloke. That's like 40 kilos difference.
That's the thing. Like,
it's a 40 kilo difference in the teeps.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even with jiu-jitsu, you just lay on someone. Like they have to be able to bench press you off.
And you got to get at least one low blow in because the first one would just be a warning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's
absolutely.
You just run in and fucking front snap kick his nuts.
Oh mate, Paulie won't even hold the pads for me when we're doing teep kicks. He's too scared. I'm scared. I don't know where it's going to go. It's too long. I don't have feeling in the end of it. It just goes out. If it hits, great. If not,
you just throw it and just hope it hits something.
It's only on the bag.
It's like fishing.
So I want to ask then, because you watch MMA, so we've got the UFC coming up this weekend. What can I get people's predictions?
Yeah, sure.
So
what's the card like?
Where do you want to start? At the top?
Let's start.
DC Miocic?
No, let's start with Derek Brunson and Ian. I can't say his name. Heinich.
I would have to lean towards Ian because Brunson has just looked terrible lately. Like he has gone downhill since I fought him. Honestly, he's just gone downhill, and it seems like every fight he gets a little worse.
Why do you think that is?
I think he's a particular fighter that really needs that momentum, that steam, like psychologically needs it, that hype. He needs everyone being like, you're the man, you're the best, and he feeds off that and he gets stronger from that. Like you see his run through the division, it was kind of like that. You can see it, and then it got derailed, and then it's kind of gone downhill now because he can't seem to build up steam and momentum again.
He I have to pick Ian over him. If Brunson can't put him away early, if Brunson can land the big left hand early in the fight, then I think he'll win it. Like I also see him as a very confidence-based fighter, and I think he's very dangerous and hits very hard. But I was impressed with that the other guy, the Heinich. Sorry, Ian, I'm going to say your name wrong. But I was impressed with him in his last fight when he beat Carlos Jr. He's just a good overall grappler. Your thoughts?
I don't know who the other bloke is, so Brunson.
Brunson, excellent. Good call.
Sorry, mate.
Eli, Paulie?
I'm going with Ian.
You going with Ian?
Yeah, he's looked good.
Am I on?
Yes, sir.
You can hear that? Yeah. No, I agree with you guys. I think Brunson, confidence is low. He hasn't had some very good results lately in that. I don't know if he can come back. He's sort of at the other end of Ian. Ian's sort of making his way up. I think Brunson.
I feel like after Brunson's last fight, even though he got the win, just would have smashed his confidence again because he couldn't get him out of there.
Yeah.
I just think he's so like bent on getting those knockouts, riding that hype, feeling great. That he just, if he doesn't have it, he can't do it.
Gabriel Benitez versus Sadiq Yusuf.
Like I really like seeing Sadiq fight. He just throws such heavy hands. He just throws heavy leather. Like
It's got a lot of power at featherweight.
huge power. And you know what I love seeing is that he just throws heavy. Like I'll throw a heavy punch, but it'll be calculated heavy so that I don't hurt my own hand or it comes off. Sadiq doesn't care. He just throws leather, heavy shots the whole time. Every shot is heavy and powerful.
I don't think a lot of guys at featherweight as well carry that kind of power, and that's when you saw a guy like Conor McGregor that's got that lot of power at in the lighter divisions. They go very, very far, those guys.
Yeah.
Benitez is good as well, but I just, from what I know of him, I think Sadiq Yusuf is going to win this one. Thoughts?
Well, Sadiq's 9-1 at the moment, so and I know that because I've just googled it. He looks good. Apparently, he throws hard punches. I don't know the lower card. I'm fucking hopeless.
It's all right.
Terrible with names.
Paulie? Sadiq?
Yeah.
Sadiq?
I agree. Well done.
He throws so heavy. It is so fun watching him. The whole time he just throws bombs.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Now, moving on to, I guess this is going to be an interesting one. Romero versus Costa. What do you think, Rob?
Mate, I cannot wait to see this fight. It all depends on which Romero shows up. If the Romero I fought last time shows up, I don't think it'll be close.
The thing I do think, which I think is a massive fallacy, I don't know, for whatever reason, the amount of damage sustained by Romero in that fight with Rob. Because straight after the fight, he went into surgery with a broken orbital. I don't know how he'll look, you know what I mean, coming back into that fight.
Well, Romero hasn't fought since another.
No, he hasn't. So what do you think about the two fighters and how they match up?
Well, Costa is a much younger fighter, obviously a specimen. You look at him. Like I said, I honestly think this fight will hedge on how Romero comes back from the last fight. Like if he comes in strong, looking good like he always does, and like the Romero of last fight, I think he'll get it out. I think he's more athletic than Costa and much more skilled.
What do you mean by much more skilled?
His skill set is much higher.
In what sense?
Just he's got Olympic level wrestling. His grappling is top notch. Like he's taken people down like Jacare and survived, and Weidman. Like he can go to the ground with the best of them. And although his striking is a little funny, he's got power to knock you out, and he's got the athleticism to close that gap and the a sort of unorthodoxness in a way that he can fly near you. Like he's got great instincts. Great instincts mixed with athleticism, mixed with power, is a recipe for danger.
Do you see do you see Costa being able to pressure him early and pressure him and hurt him early from get going from the start?
Yeah, I can see it if Costa just goes in and goes ballistic, and we'll see how Romero does that. But I
you run into a lot of problems like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I don't think Costa runs in, tries to bull him. Romero will just take him down. He'll just take him down easily. Like
how was it like when you fought Romero? What's it like being in there with him and his athletic ability, particularly in the first fight?
Yeah, you're just on edge the whole time because you don't know what he's going to do. Because he moves at it. He's got good distance control. He moves really light. He's very light in his movement, and his shots are so crisp, so crisp.
You don't see him, eh?
No, you can't see him shoot for doubles. His timing is impeccable, and like his form is crazy. Like one moment you're going in to punch him, and the next he's not there anymore. You look down and he's at your ankles. Like it's weird.
The other thing with Costa, most of his fights are finishes and they're early, and I think Romero has had more experience in the longer fights. Like most of his finishes are in the third round. He's fought you a couple of times in the fifth round. He's fought big guys, which he lost at light heavyweight against Cavalcante, but he's fought those big guys as well. Costa is a big guy. He's very good. what's the difference between going from even if you have the fitness, but what's a 5-round fight like in terms of learning how to fight 5-round fights, learning how to pace yourself in a 5-round fight?
Yeah,
how important is that experience?
they're a different beast because you can't spend yourself for 3 rounds and then lose the last 2. You'll get finished. Like you saw that with Gaston and in his last fight, he had nothing left in that 5th and he copped it. You know, managing your energy levels and your expenditure, like in those championship fights or 5-round fights, is paramount.
Do you think that him fighting in those 2 fights against you, although they were separated by a year or a year and a bit, do you think that would bring some momentum in, having those 2 extra rounds or those 4 extra rounds that he normally wouldn't have? Having that momentum, having that confidence to know that he can go toe-to-toe with the best in the world, and then he comes down against the guy ranked lower.
His experience in the game will show in this fight. If, like, assuming Costa doesn't just go in there and go mental and catch him. I think it'll definitely show having those. Romero, I think, is suited for 3 rounds. I think you put him up against anyone in 3 rounds, it's a very dangerous fight.
What's that body type, isn't it? It's all that explosive sort of nature.
And it's just, it's like, exactly that. He's so explosive and he's so athletic. And
he's competed his whole life in a points-based sport in wrestling where he knows how to win matches. Do you know what I mean? He knows, especially like rounds and that. Like in wrestling, you have rounds as well and it's points. He knows what he has to do. He's got very good gamesmanship. He knows like how to extract rest from this point. Some people, I'm not taking the piss. Some people think it's cheating, and I think, well, it's up to the ref to enforce that.
He's playing the game.
He's playing the game, and he knows how to play it. He's had a lifestyle of that, of that background. You know what I mean? So I think that comes into play a lot in that he knows, for example, if he can get one takedown a round in the 3-round fight, he's going to win the fight. And then whilst you're going, fuck, I've got to stop this takedown, he knees you in the head. So that's... And he's got a chin, He's got a fucking chin on him.
Watching your fights against him, those first couple of rounds are terrifying. Like just to see him just stalking. And even though you're scoring on him and you're hitting with him, it's just
he's
like...
He's got massive chin.
You just watch him come...
He's very resilient to damage.
This guy's terrifying.
No, he is. He's that fight, I was in the corner, man, and that was like something out of a horror film. Because I could see his face was broken. Like I thought, surely they're going to stop this fight.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like that's a feeling I got in the thing. But he's super tough, dude. Like he's so fucking tough. That's the thing. Like people don't understand that. And even to say Rob didn't damage Romero is stupid. It's ignorant, and obviously you're very biased. But apart from that, it's like you're not giving credit to Romero because. Dude, if I broke my eye socket, I wouldn't go to work the next day. Do you know what I mean? Definitely. This guy broke his eye socket probably in the first round and just kept fighting. Do you know what I mean? Rob broke his hand, but Romero broke his eye socket. I don't know which... so you got to give that credit to Romero too, Like, who the fuck keeps fighting with a broken eye socket,
Did you listen to his podcast where he had Joey Diaz translating for him on Joe Rogan?
It's a little bit of it.
To listen about his life and how he grew up, like... There's no way that guy's not extremely tough.
Nah, he's super
tough.
Just,
the Cuban wrestling system.
I've been to Cuba.
Yep.
I speak Spanish as my first language. It's easier for me to listen to Romero and to listen to Joey Diaz because the translation's a little bit off, Not nothing against him. It's just like I can speak Spanish. But no, I've been to Cuba and when you train in the Havana team, like in Havana, in the capital, like they got the very, 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 very best, like of each division, 3-4 deep, guys from each, then you got 3-4 deep from the next weight division up, 3-4 weight from the next division down. Then you have Greco-Roman guys plus the judo guys, and they all train together sometimes, And so you can't the guys just to make it there. You're already jumped in the deep end of the gene pool. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you're already a very, very special human, just physically, let alone everything else. Because the other stuff is like everyone's had their things, that could be hard or not or whatever. I don't know. Some people speak on it, some people don't. But just from a fighting perspective, if you made it to the institute, you're fucking serious cat. You know what I mean? Like a serious person. And I've seen them train. I've seen their facilities. Like I've got good relationships with some of the coaches still over there. And no, man, it's not a joke. These people are not. They're not.
You're saying that the better you perform, the more food you get, the better sleeping quarters you get.
Yeah, I think I don't know enough about that. Do you know what I mean? Like if he says it, it has to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just to think that that's how you fight to get to where you.
Yeah, but I don't think it would matter in as far as like, how could I say, someone like with his physical attributes he would have been good whether he was raised in Sweden. Do you know what I mean? Like
At whatever sport he wanted to do.
That's what I mean. So it's a very and I'm not discounting what he grew up in.
No.
You know, but I'm saying when people say that, I think like he would have been on the top end of that because of his physical attributes, not because he didn't train hard and everything or whatever, but it's. He's a very special human, regardless, just physically. You know what I mean? So he would have been. Yeah, I really don't like because when they're fighting, like say for example, I know stuff about Rob that he might not want to share, that I know that other people probably didn't go through. So when they tell me that, like I'm like, yeah, but I'm sure Adesanya's gone through a bunch of shit. Sure. I'm sure you have. You know what I mean?
Everyone's got this battle. I was talking to Paulie on the way up here. It's like. Everyone's drowning just at different rates.
100%. So that all I can talk about is his physical attributes and how serious that place is to train at. You know what I mean? The rest I can't say because there's people in first world countries that if they don't perform, they like. Kids that played fucking basketball. If they hadn't have performed, they wouldn't have ate. You know what I mean? So that takes nothing away from Romero's experience. But I think there's a lot of other people that have had shit that, you know, it could be fucking parents died of cancer or some shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, I'd rather be in the Havana Institute than have that happen, you know? Yeah. So I can't speak on that, but I can tell you, man, it's a serious place, man. It's a very, very, very serious place. I went there because I used to see them when we would be with the national teams, and the Cubans would be there, and it was hard, man. It was a hard situation because they would sell their tracksuits and get money. So I bought tracksuits off them. I used to buy the cigars off them and come back sell them here. And then I went there and I had a good relationship with their coaches. I spent about 2-3 weeks at the institute there. And just watching them train and watching them do everything, and it's a serious place, you know, very very serious place. So who you got?
Romero, just based on on his physical performance over the last couple of fights, and to go against those 5 rounders against you, and now to come up against someone who he's hungry. He's got to be hungry, Romero. He wants back at the top. I think he's going to be a scary person to come up against.
Eli.
USADA's going to be all over this, aren't they? Over this fight, before or after, during the fight. I don't know. Yeah, they could be. I thought the fight was happening in Mexico, so I think if Costa goes out there, all guns are blazing. I think he's got to fight his fight. If Romero gets him stuck in that pace, you know what I mean, and runs his fight how he likes to do, he likes to slow it down, and then he'll speed up and throw something, or you know what I mean, a crazy punch out of somewhere or a flying knee or something like that. That's when he's dangerous. When you sort of go down to his level, he puts you in that comfort zone of thinking, all right, this is nice and slow on that. And then he explodes into something. I think, Costa's game plan's got to be, he's got to get in there and try to really put some pressure on him. But then, like you said, there's the issue of the takedown then.
But even if you go in on Romero, take the takedown out of it, it's not like you can just go in on him like he hasn't got power in his hands.
Yeah.
He's got dynamite in his hands as well. So if you go in there a little bit too overzealous, you could eat a hot one too.
Could do. But yeah, I think if Costa gets stuck into his game plan, into Romero's game plan, then he's fucked.
Are you going with Costa or with Romero?
Oh man, my like I respect them both as fighters, but I both like, I don't know, the whole tainted supplements thing for both of them man, they just go in there and damage each other. And I can enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? I can just sit back and enjoy it. So I think as long as it's an entertaining fight, I'm going to enjoy it. Man, 3-round war to a draw, that will do. I'll be happy with that. They just stand there and bang. Yeah, that would do me.
What about you, Paulie?
Romero, I don't think Costa gives I don't think he's got it. Romero's seen too many different looks. Unless he purely tries to do it out of questioning something and catches him, I just think Romero's got him.
Okay. Who's next on that card?
Nate Diaz.
Oh, Nate Diaz and Pettis.
Pettis.
What do you guys?
I'm going to lean towards Nate. I think Nate can just outwork him. And then you've seen Pettis get pressured and outworked before. Not saying anything about Pettis. Like, I think Pettis definitely has the ability to knock him out, maybe. To land that shot. You've seen he has knockout power, and he's very good at landing those strikes, especially on the back foot. But
he had that against Wonderboy in the last
yeah.
fight. I mean, and he was, as you said, he was being pressured by him, and it was it's not a pure luck thing, obviously, jumping off the back of the fence with a Superman punch.
And he's dropped a lot of people. He dropped even when he lost against Ferguson, he dropped him though. You know, so there's that, and Nate has been dropped before, but I think
Nate's been dropped a lot. But.
Yeah, but I think Nate can just pressure him, and outwork him and get a win that way. But I think it'll be an interesting fight though.
I'm really looking forward to that one, but I do think that that style of pressure fighter come forward with a good chin, because Nate's got a good chin as well, and Nate knows how to box. You know, he's not gonna. He knows. I think he's going to come in and pressure him, move forward, look like he's going to do a takedown, go for a takedown. Pettis' jiu-jitsu is good, but really, really good. But that come forward, pitter patter boxing, which hits harder than people think, is I think I've got to go with Diaz.
How long has it been since Diaz fought?
About 2 years, 3 years.
Do you think that plays into a factor here, or is his gym, his attitude just like we fight every day sort of thing?
I would imagine from his background that he's been training all the time. He goes in like triathlons and and like they run a jiu-jitsu school, and they've got, you know, they've always got people coming out of there. So I'd imagine that he'd be in shape all the whole time. The other thing is sometimes like having that break, if you can get it, it's good, man, because you don't want to take too much trauma to the head.
No, definitely.
And he's taken a lot. So I think he's probably smart to have taken a bit of time off as well. You know, so...
Well, maybe Diaz then. I mean, just going back to the Wonderboy fight with Pettis, you know, being pressured in that fight, there's always that problem with fighting Wonderboy. There's an enormous amount of problems coming from the feet, all those type of things. I mean, can you go past Diaz knowing his chin? That's the concern, and knowing that it'll keep coming that entire fight.
And he does, like, Nate is smart. Like, he's covered up. Like, he covers up and keeps coming. What, from you fought Wonderboy before, and, like, what did you see in that fight with Pettis and Wonderboy?
You know, you just gotta. I think Wonderboy just reached a point where he's just taking a lot of damage. He's not a young guy anymore. Like, not super young, you know. And he's like those Woodley fights. He took a lot of big shots, and
Darren
Till, he took big shots. It's just one of those things.
Oh, another interesting thing about Romero is he didn't make weight in the last 2 fights. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Like 186 he'll probably make, but you know, he's getting older. It's not like it's going to get easier to cut weight. Sorry to go off topic. I forgot to mention that. But yeah. So you got Pettis?
Yeah. No.
I mean Diaz.
Yeah. Plus, like, I'm biased though. Like, I've always been a huge fan of Diaz. Diaz.
Eli?
I agree with you guys. Do you know what I mean? I think the pressure, I think he'll pepper him, and just that consistent punching and that will get to him. With the knockout that Pettis last got, was it a little bit of Wonderboy was also closing that gap, wasn't he? So it was sort of him coming forward and the punch coming forward. Well, I don't think Diaz has. You know what I mean? He's not going to explode forward, and so I don't know. I think he'll pepper him.
And Diaz walks forward.
Yeah,
like this. You have to come around the side.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how Josh Thompson knocked him out with that kick around the side. Yep. But to come flush down the middle, it's hard on Diaz, man. He's like, you know what I mean? And Pettis can do that. He's got really amazing kicks.
And he mixes his punches up really well, Diaz, but do you know what I mean? Goes to the body, goes back up to the body, and he just keeps throwing them. Just that volume, do you know what I mean? He just peppers people with them, and they're just there in your face, annoying, and they just get to you, and you think they're not wearing on you. And then next thing you know, do you know what I mean? 5 little bits of pepper compared to 1 bit of, do you know what I mean, salt or something like that. 1 big punch, they just have a toll on you. So I think that's how.
No more analogies, please, Eli.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
no more.
Hit him with a bit of Worcestershire.
You have the Aboriginal Gordon Ramsay over there.
Diaz by submission.
Okay, cool. What submission?
I don't know. I can pull off like an arm triangle or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Or a guillotine.
Well, you know what? I can see the guillotine. What? Now we got Cormier and Miocic.
Yeah, I would lean towards. I have to lean towards DC. You know, I thought Miocic would handle him in the first one, but like DC looks so good at heavyweight. He's so experienced. His skill set is quite complete. He's got good chin. He's got great wrestling, and now you've seen he has knockout power.
He's always had knockout power.
Yeah, but you've seen like it like in the heavyweight division he's knocked him out before. Like it's there. Yeah, I would have to lean towards him. That's not saying Miocic is a great fighter. I think he's one of the best heavyweights ever. But yeah, DC looked good. He fills out so well at heavyweight, and he's got a great skill set.
I'd be really interested to see. I really can't call that one. I have to like you said, DC won, so I'm going to kind of go with that. But it was so quick. I really want to see a fight. I can't call that one. Gun to my head, I have to say DC, but I've got a little voice in my head that's saying Miocic. I don't know. I can't. Like the logic says DC, but I've got a thing that's Miocic. I'm split. I can't.
Do you think that Stipe will avoid that clinch now? Or go nowhere near it and try and keep the distance and throw? Because that's where the danger was, yeah? Unexpected.
That's kind of how Miocic fights, though.
Miocic's got good jab. He's got very good boxing. I don't know, man. I don't know, because they're 2 guys that can wrestle. They're going to end up kind of in that clinch at some point. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Like he can't avoid it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, because they weren't like clinching. I think it was just like in the clinch. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I'd love to see DC win just for the pure reason of seeing him and John Jones fight at heavyweight.
I don't know if they will. Do you reckon they will?
No. I think John Jones said he wouldn't fight him at heavyweight.
Really?
Yeah, he said that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I don't know.
Eli?
I'd like to see Stipe win. I know I really like him and stuff like that, but I think if he doesn't get him out in the early rounds, the deeper it goes into the rounds, I think DC's just too much pressure. 4th and 5th rounds, DC would just mix it up. I think it'd just be like him starting to drown in them 4th and 5th rounds. So probably if it goes the full length, I think DC will come away with the win. But I think Stipe will be much smarter this time. He'll try to take his time a little bit more. But I'm very interested in the fight. It'll be the best fight, I think.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I can't pick that one. Paulie?
Same as Eli. Yeah, I reckon the same. I reckon if he gets him within 3, he's got him. If he doesn't, then Cormier.
Okay.
Yeah. I like both of them, but too.
Yeah, me too. I can't.
It's very tough with this fight because I think a lot of people, do you know what I mean? There's not a bad guy in it.
Yeah.
Everyone sort of loves them both. Why, do you know what I mean? Someone usually gets made out to be the bad guy, but these two, they're both the good guys. So, yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. Wrapping up because we've been going for an hour and a half now. What have you got coming up? Like, what's some things that you want to shout out and whatnot?
Man, I'm an Australian tour. I'm coming to your city. Come and see me. That's about it, really. Subscribe.
Okay. And where can people find you again?
If you Google my name, Isaac Butterfield, you'll find me somewhere.
Awesome.
Rob, I got one question for you.
Ask away any questions you have, by the way.
With the last press conference, the way you handled Israel's attempt to rile you up was the most hilarious way anyone has ever handled anything. I don't know. I can't remember where I was watching it, but you're just like, I didn't say that.
I am glad you appreciate it.
That was so good.
Because
it was perfect.
I knew, like, we knew that's how I'd handle, because that's how I handle everything. It's
Yeah.
like, what are you going to do? It's like, I'm not going to get in here and start having a verbal battle with you. So, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
But not everybody was going to get it. So I'm very happy you got it.
Oh, I just thought it was just so smart because everyone else is, that battle, that word battle, that sort of schoolyard sort of, and I enjoy that. I think everyone enjoys a good, a good beef sort of thing that's settled. But to hear you take all the power away from what he was saying, all the attempt that he was trying to, do this and that and get under your skin and just go, oh. And he was left with nothing. He was being disarmed.
Let me just say though, I didn't have this thought, like this game plan going into the conference. I didn't think I'm going to say this and do that. I just went out there and
being you.
Yeah, I just honestly I don't care. Like by now you've seen the culture. Like we put shit on each other 24/7.
Yeah.
So like I have pretty thick skin.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. You said on an Instagram post, I think it was yesterday, that you are going to entertain at the press conference. Coming up this week.
No, I said Melbourne's Otis show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, is that talking about the press conference or the fight itself?
No, the fight.
Because that's how it come across to me. I thought at the press conference something's going to go down.
Nah. You know what is funny though? I G up the security guards. They have security guards there because they don't want the fighters meeting. Ever since the old mate threw a boomerang at someone.
Yeah.
But ever since then, like they've had security guards.
You should walk in with a boomerang.
I mess with them the whole time, and I just go, bro, whatever you do this whole trip, just make sure Israel isn't within 100 feet of me because I'll go fucking crazy. Like I'll go mental. I'll just lose it. And he's like, they're doing their job. They're very just like, no worries. I'll make sure. Don't worry. I go because I won't be able to control myself. If I see him, it just goes red and I go mental. Like,
there'll be monster
I do
cans
that
thrown through the air.
all the time. It's funny.
What's her reaction?
Oh, they're just like, yep, no worries. And they start making calls to people, and it's funny.
You should do that, but then just like pack a machete into a fucking bag or something.
And let him see it.
Let him see. Go, is he out there?
Let him see it.
No, everything will be all right.
I did that getting out of an elevator the other day in a hotel. I was with my tour manager and we just got out and there's an old dude in there. And I was just like, as we're walking, I was like, all right, so what are we going to do with this body? Where are we going to bury it? I just love leaving people with that shit when I'm in elevators and talk. Oh, shit. But yeah, no, it'd be very interesting. And the press conference is on, when's that? Is that next couple of weeks?
I think Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah,
okay.
Should be good.
Should be very good.
Yeah.
This Thursday.
Yeah.
I'll be tuning in.
Yeah.
Be good.
No. All right. Well, thank you
That's
very
all
much,
I've got,
guys.
brother. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming, man. Really,
My
really
absolute
appreciate
pleasure.
it. And you want to just say when he's going to be on for yours?
So we're going to have it, I don't know when we're going to record it. We're recording it next week, but it should come out maybe a little bit closer to the fight and G it up, get the Australian people fired up for a war, and hopefully we do it justice in our conversation. I'm sure
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Pleasure.
guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, mate.